Hello there, folks, and well, look at us. We made it to the end of the aisle of How I Met Your Mother. Welcome to Recap in the Past, the How I Met Your Mother edition. This is the whole series recap discussion that we like to do at the end. As usual, I am your friendly neighborhood Soda Stinson, joined by Bigfoot Ben Rayner. How you doing?
Yeah, this is going to be legendary tonight.
Yes, it is. And speaking of legendary, we brought on two guests, two friends of ours from within the space. Dave Lees from over on Schmoes of the North, and Matt.
Hello.
From, what is the actual channel name again?
What Real Entertainment?
What Real Entertainment? Yeah, every time I think of you guys, I always say, "Hey, the spin for the real boys." So, how you guys doing?
I'm doing good. We're talking about the show where the main characters from my hometown. Let's go, Cleveland!
That's right. Ted Evelyn Mosby is from Cleveland. That's right.
I am so excited to be here. We talked about me coming on the show what seems like a lifetime ago. This is, like I tweeted out earlier, probably one of the most influential shows of the 2000s, and I'm glad and honored that I could be a part of it. And I'm going to assume the voice of the people here, as I'm surrounded by three hype men.
Ooh, I don't remember being called a hype man before.
You're wearing a ducky tie, Soda.
Yes, I am. So before we all get into it, what was your first exposure to the show? Dave, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a little bit younger than Soda is here. So I started watching it. I was not even in high school yet, but I had an older sister who was really into it. And one day when my parents were out, she was watching it. I was like, what are you watching? And it was the Greatest Burger in New York episode. And I was just like, oh my God, what is this show? And then, as all good older siblings do, they pull off the DVDs off the shelf and are like, here you go, big boy, there you go. And I was hooked. The last episode aired on my first year in college, got the entire floor together, suited up to watch it, and then spend the next 3 hours drinking and yelling about how bad it was. But that's neither here nor there.
Oh, we're definitely going to get into it.
Oh, yeah.
Dave, be lucky I'm not in Canada right now, because I'd hunt you down like Jay and Silent Bob in the end of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay. Speaking of that, Matt, what was your first exposure to the show?
So I grew up in a family where my parents were always willing to at least watch the first couple episodes of a new show when it was coming out. So we're talking. I started watching initially when the show first aired, and then they stopped watching. I kept watching for a couple of years or so. Then I fell off because I was only 10, 11 when it came out. So, you get to that age, you drop off a little bit after like the first two seasons. And then I caught something from like season 5. And I was like, I'm going to get back into it. Saw everything was on Netflix, and I caught up. And then I watched that again after I caught up. And I watched it again after I watched it that second time. I'm like, this show's really evolved from what it was when I was younger, and maybe that's just because I understand it a bit more, or some other reason. But I got hooked, and I kept up with it ever since then. When it aired on Mondays, I normally had show choir practice. So what was the first thing I did after show choir? Came home, made dinner, watched How I Met Your Mother.
Okay, it just warms my heart that you said you were in a show choir. I was in musicals in high school. So.
I was in musicals also, not really by choice though.
Oh, mine was by choice, and I actually was.
The first one was by choice. The second one was, we need more black people.
Oh!
The third time I tried to get out of it, they begged me to do crew because I needed crew, and I did it. And then the fourth time, we did Hairspray, and once again, it was, we need more black people.
My high school did Hairspray as well, but there are no black people in this school.
Oh, so they broke
you can't do it.
What they did was they put a full disclaimer at the beginning and said, just use your imagination.
You're still not allowed to do that.
Can't do that.
This was 12, 13 years ago, so I don't know if it was different
Yeah,
then.
no, that show has had a hard thing on it since like the 70s that if the black cast members must be black, there is
Then I think I might have just thrown some people under the bus by accident. Sorry, Robin.
Oh my goodness. Local news report, high school raided by the FBI? What? We don't have jurisdiction up here.
For 15 years ago.
I've always said I'd make a good
statues.
But anyways, that's besides the point. See, when I was in high school, we like the three I was on stage for was Music Man, Hello Dolly, and Guys and Dolls. So
Oh, yeah.
We did Seussical, and I was cast as a monkey. we did Fame, and
I was in Pit for.
I once again, we need more than just one black person. Then the year I didn't do stage, I was crew. We did Thoroughly Modern Millie, and then senior year was Hairspray.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was in orchestra pit for Pajama Game, Fame, Beauty and the Beast. I want to say there was one more, but I might be mistaken. Off the top of my head, I'm kind of blanking. But anyway,
I was also in theater, but I'm going to save a story about that for later.
Sounds good. Ben, did we talk about what our exposures to the show was?
I knew every that, but you want to
Go right ahead. Yeah,
I remember I came to it late. I started watching live after season 4, and I needed to catch up. So I just remember loving it right away. Yeah, for the longest time it was that show. And I saw a little bit of after watching Everybody Loves Raymond. And I thought, okay, that looks good, but never really got around to it.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, when season 4, episode 1, I watched it and I really liked it. And the rest, as I say, is history.
So I have a similar actual origin to Matt, where I watched it from the very beginning, but I lasted probably about halfway through. I think I might have lasted to the Victoria episodes,
Okay.
and then I fell off.
So halfway through the first season, then.
Yeah, Victoria's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Victoria is some of the most compelling stuff in the show.
I think that's why I have a hard time now. Like, once I make it past those episodes and rewatch, I'm golden. I don't know. But anyways, I didn't watch again till they announced the final season.
Okay.
So I went to my local HMV and I bought everything on DVD. I caught up and I watched season 8 as it happened.
What?
Yeah.
What? What is that?
Yeah.
What is an HMV?
HMV. So it's basically like a Sunshine Records sort of thing. You go in, it sells music, it sells records, it sells DVDs, it sells board games. It's like a movie nerd, music nerd paradise.
So we're talking to dumb Americans here. They don't know. They don't.
I'm surprised that there was no HMV in the States, to be honest.
Well, I don't know.
We have what's called the exchange.
Okay.
They resell movies, video games, CDs, all that.
Gotcha. No, this was a specialized store just for all that. So think of like an EB Games electronic boutique, but for movies and music.
So your stuff was brand new then?
All stuff was brand new. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
that's Best Buy for us. That's Best Buy for us.
Yeah,
as Robin Sparkles says, the 80s didn't come to Canada until like 1995.
Okay, so
we're a little behind.
As we were doing season by season, yes, I dispelled almost all of those Canadian tropes. The only one is
Canada.
Tim
You
Hortons.
did it again.
Yeah,
How
Tim
could
Hortons.
you ruin this? Why? Why?
And he's talking about this episode. Too many Canadians.
Damn right.
Okay, so let's just hop into our top 5 favorite episodes of all time list. Matt, I'm going to start with you because I got Dave to start the last question. So, what is your number 5 all time favorite episode?
My number 5. This is a 2-parter, and that is the finale.
That's my number 5 as well. Wow, I didn't think we'd be getting into it this quick.
I'm just glad it was nobody's number 1. I'm just glad it was nobody's number 1.
I put it as my number 1. Why?
1 through 5 is actually interchangeable depending on my mood. I will say that.
Matt, we used to be friends.
Yeah, but once again, I was I was Gucci and you were Shannon. It was never going to work.
What a callback! What a callback!
Truthfully, this is this didn't make my list until this most recent rewatch. My top 4 are pretty concrete, but this one was this rewatch where it's like, yeah, okay, this is up there for me.
This is my honorable mentions.
Okay, and we all know David's in the dumpster for. So
Yeah. Okay.
Let's get into that.
I'll let you go first. Why is it your number 5?
So it's my number 5 just because of how pretty much the first half we get all the wrap ups, we get the emotional stuff with the characters saying goodbye to each other, like Lily not being able to bring herself to it, singing at the wedding, and then we get to the second half where we get to see, which most shows don't do, we get to see where the characters end up in the future, and we do see the 2030 wrap up, which I am perfectly fine with because rewatching the series this time, I realized it was choreographed from all the way in season 3 that the very end of the episode of the series, Robin and Ted were going to end up together because they mentioned it. Where do you want to see yourself in the future? Oh, I want to see myself as a famous reporter. Check. Robin did that. What about you, Ted? Where do you want to see yourself? Married with 2 kids. Check. And the wife unfortunately passed away. It was choreographed from that far back. This whole series was about timing. It was about Ted and Robin ending up together. It just had to happen at the right time.
So do you and I have very, very similar ideas to this. Mine's just only slightly different.
Yeah.
To me, what this show has always shown is the fact that there is more than just the one. There's one of a few. Mm-hmm. You are lucky enough in life if you can find one of those few. Ted found 2 of them.
Yeah.
One of them he had to give up because it allowed for her and one of his best friends to grow. This show's about self-sacrifice, and then ultimately your comeuppance from it. And it's about growing as a person, how we grow, and how life can be strange and you still end up where you want to at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's why I love this episode, because unfortunately, yes, your wife died. You got to spend all this time with her. You wanted more. But at the end of the day, you still are loved by someone you love just as much as her.
And what's funny is the mother had the similar arc.
Yep. And I brought that up on Daniel's show. I said, if you look at Ted's arc and the mother's arc, they're literally in reverse of each other.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Dave, I could see you trying not to swallow your microphone. So let's hear your arguments. You seem to be on the fence of the loud minority here.
First of all, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. If this is
yes, he does.
No, because I'll never tell anyone that the reason they like something is wrong. Everyone has different tastes, and it's fine. You can like what you love. But this episode sucks.
Why?
Because I agree, everything you're saying makes sense. But the show kind of pigeonholed itself where they had shot the finale and stuff with the 2 kids and being like, oh, you were in love with Aunt Robin years ago in case something happened. And they didn't account for the character growth that was going to happen, not just for Ted.
They did. Yes, they did.
One sec. Let me talk. Did I talk to her in your time out? Did I talk to her in your time?
I'm defending. I'm just defending. Yes, they did.
Could we just... Okay.
But
I had to do that.
I think both Robin and Ted have grown, and Ted is my least favorite character in the show. But
take this. Get off the screen. Get off the screen, sir. You have not to besmirch Cleveland, Ohio's own Ted Mosby like that. Get off the screen.
But they have both grown so much as people. And I'm not one of those people who says, well, because we spent the last season setting up Robin and Barney, and then they get divorced. Oh, that sucks. I don't care about that. That makes sense. That relationship was never going to work. It's about growing. The whole show, to me, is about growing up and how you're not the same person you were at the start of your journey. And we see this amazing character growth for everybody, showing independence and in some cases, reliance on others to a healthy extent in Robin's case. And everyone gets to grow and become a new person. But then it's just like, but no, none of that character growth matters. We're doing the exact same shit we were doing we're doing the same shit we were doing 30 years ago. And it's like, we're just undoing everything we watched. And it sucks as a viewer because you're seeing.
No, pause.
Okay, pause.
How does it unravel everything
it doesn't watched? Because they're still these grown people, and now they're at this point in time where they can actually be with each other without having to worry about what the other wants, because they've each had what they want in life.
Now,
they still have. She's now the famous reporter. She's now this famous architect. She doesn't have to worry about kids at this point because they're at the age where they're self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the sticking points of their characters throughout the entire show. It doesn't undo a single thing about them. And if you want to make the it undoes argument, that can go back to love makes people do crazy things. When you're in love with someone, you may rewind to being a 14-year-old at heart. That's just what love is. And that's why this show and this finale is an important landmark in television.
I get that. But also, we spend the majority of the show showing this is why these people are wrong for each other. And they can grow because the lifestyles that they both want at the end of their character arcs are not compatible with each other. It's just not good.
For that point in time, we are now in 2030.
It's all this time so later. 20 extra years. We don't know that's what's going to happen. It gets explained away
because it was telegraphed. It was explained in the show before that.
Being telegraphed is different.
No. This is the brilliance of the show. It literally telegraphs. It tells you in the early seasons how this is going to go. Like Soda said, they always drop those little nuggets of information. And then when you watch that finale, if you're paying attention, oh my God, this is from this. This is from this. This is all given to us.
Marshall even knew it. He still wouldn't give up on a bet with Lily.
I agree with that. I agree with, here's the thing. I agree with everything you're saying. I just don't think it works the way they wanted to. I think these characters are stronger if they don't end up back together because it shows that the show's about growing up. You
don't understand the show. You really don't understand
it. These characters have evolved past each other.
I watch this show front to back 2 to 3 times a year. Trust me, I can write a thesis paper on this show.
That's nice that you can write a thesis paper, but you can't tell me how to experience the show.
I'm not telling you how to experience the show. I'm just telling you where and when to rebuttal your argument that it's literally set up. They set up. That's why you get those flash forwards on occasion to see where they're at in life. That's why you had Ted talk about what these people are up to now to his kids sometimes in life. This is what the show always was.
If I tell you 6 years from now, I'm going to give you a poop sandwich, and I tell you every 6 months, I text you, hey, that poop sandwich is coming, and I'm not saying it's a poop sandwich. The fact that I telegraphed it does not make it a good thing. It's still a poop sandwich.
No, it makes it funny. Okay.
Or an exploding meatball sub to bring it back to the show.
Get in a word before we move on.
You know what? I didn't want to know what in a sandwich. What do you have in that sandwich?
Shit.
If you're not old enough, if you don't know, you might not be old enough to know.
He's my age.
I'm the only one here.
You know, it comes to us in different times, I guess.
Yeah. Like How I Met Your Mother. But it's safe to say we do all agree on the same points. It hit for Dave differently than it hit for you. And to be honest, I was kind of more in the middle going into this rewatch when it came to this episode. But I do like the way they wrap things up for all the other characters. And we do get to see the big moments of like when Marshall becomes Fudge Supreme. Or my favorite, you get a call back to earlier in the episode where Barney goes back to his philandering ways, and he mockingly tells the girl, "You are the love of my life. Everything I have and everything I am is yours forever." Fast forward 5 years when he has a daughter, and he says the same thing, and he means it.
Now, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, I love all of that. It's literally the last 2 minutes of the show.
Which I do understand, but I will say what actually ruins it for me is that the creators went back and appeased the fans as a beta Snyder cut and did that bullshit ending.
Where they just ended it at the wedding but no. Yeah. So I actually, before we move on, real fun fact.
Yeah.
I have a theory that How I Met Your Father, that spinoff was supposed to happen. The mother in that would have ended up being the mother of Barney's child.
Oh! You said that.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
No. No, Ben, you said it was Barney's daughter.
Mm-mm. I'm saying it's because it only makes sense because of the show would have started in 2014 and we would have ended up probably right around the time when Barney is having his kid, and then you end it with I ended up getting knocked up by this random guy, and that's how I met your father.
You know what? That's what I meant originally.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
Because that makes sense the daughter. I was like, that guy's a little off.
Yeah, that's what I meant. How I met them.
Okay. All right. So, Ben, what is your number 5?
My number 5. 1 second. The 100th episode. First series.
None on my list.
Bad News, you said?
No. Girls versus Suits.
It's an honorable mention.
That's my honorable mention.
Matt, look, we're friends. We're on the same page.
Since we're both on the opposite sides of the aisle.
So there was the year after I graduated, they needed a new show choir director, and I thought about putting in for it. I built an entire show around How I Met Your Mother. The first song was "Suit and Tie" by Justin Timberlake. The second song was "Runaway Baby" by Bruno Mars. Then I had "Super Date" as the ballad, followed. Oh no, it was "Fine China" as the second song, "Super Date" as the ballad. Fourth song was "Runaway Baby," and the finale was "Nothing Suits Me Like a Suit."
Nothing suits me like a suit. Oh, it's such a great song.
It's a great song and a great fucking 100th episode.
Yes, it is.
This episode is great. I love the minute callbacks to stuff Ted mentioned about the mother, and I love how we almost saw the mother but not quite, and I love Barney giving up the suits but not really to basically date this woman. It is a great episode, and that song just tops it off for me, in my opinion.
I like the song. I like that Stacey Cooper played a great foil to Barney in this episode. Mm-hmm. And I love that they brought in some Glee connections for it, because it was the choreographer of Glee who did that dance scene, and then Heather Morris, who was one of the stars of Glee at the time, was in the chorus for the dancing as well.
I noticed that this rewatch. Now
that was before Glee got big too. Just remember.
Was it?
Yeah.
2010?
Yeah. 2010, I think, was the first season of Glee. Let me check.
Yeah.
That feels right. Now, if I can say, because I feel like I've been negative.
2009, but that episode, yeah.
Yeah. It was Ships in the Night sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. If I can be positive for a second, because I feel like I've been really negative and I do really like this show. I want that to be very clear. This is a fantastic thing. It really shows the full length of two of our leads. You see how far Barney's willing to go, even so far as putting a suit in the bathroom, and Tim Gunn's whole thing about your suit must die so that another suit may live, to Ted dating a student, and you just, as Ben said, just that little almost of the mother is one of the closest we ever get to it before it actually gets there. It's a fantastic episode that you are going to be enthralled by the entire way through. And I think it's only heightened by an episode further down the line.
And it introduces us to, I don't want to say recurring character, but a character that comes back 2 or 3 times in Rachel Bellison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who
plays a really important part in Ted's future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Comes back at just the right moments.
Yeah.
It is, that's why it's my number 5.
Okay. So we all know my number 5, so let's not rehash that. Dave, what was the tiebreaker? What is your number 5?
So before the show started, I had a bunch of ones duking it out for this number 5 spot. And just for some context, I put some strict rules on myself when making this list, which were only 1 episode per season can be in the top 5. They can't all be. I can't have a majority centered around the same character, and I have to have a good mix of the heavy episodes with the comedy episodes to, give myself some spice, just to make it a little bit harder on myself because, I hate myself for some reason. And the number 5 that ended up winning it out for me is season 1, the episode that once my sister handed me the DVDs and I said, I'm going to watch this show. The one that really made me fall in love with the show is the limo. The Let's Get Psyched New Year's Eve episode. This episode, I think, really, it showcases, I think, everyone at their best as they're just starting to break out of the Friends clone mold that has been put around them, where you get to see the ridiculous lengths Lily and Marshall are willing to go to for each other. Ted and Robin's Will They, Won't They is at the height of it, where Robin's got a date, but then Ted's got a date, but then neither one of them has a date. The reappearance of Ranjit, everyone's favorite driver.
You misconstrued that. It was Robin's got a date, then Ted's got a date, then Robin's got a date, then Ted basically ignores his date and gets done. Let's be honest here. You got to give Ted Mosby his lumps when he needs them.
Oh, Ted! As much as I realize I am Ted Mosby in some aspects of my life, he is one of the biggest cads I've ever seen in TV history.
For sure. And spoiler alert, this is the only Ted-centric episode in my top 5.
Really?
Yes. But also, because of this episode, every time I hear Shots to the Heart, I have to I get psyched, even more than I already would have. And even when it's playing not in the limo, but when Marshall appears from the mist.
That was great.
And you're like, the whole not Moby subplot with...
Yep.
I thought you said Tony. Is your name Tony? No. And Marshall comes in with the Eric t-shirt. It's fantastic.
It's pretty much a bottleneck episode because for the most part, it pretty much takes place in the limousine.
Yep. In the limo, on top of the limo, or 4 feet away from the limo. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so you're number 4, Matt.
Oh, we're going back to me? Okay.
Yeah, we're doing cyclical.
My number 4 is The Final Page.
So that's on my honorable mentions. The part 2, because I'm not a big fan of part 1 personally.
See, it's part 2 that is, but when you look at it as a whole story, it works. Yeah. But part 2 is just one of the most heartwarming episodes. It's when you really see character growth within Barney.
Yeah, slightly psychotic, but I'm with you on that.
It's Barney Stinson. When wasn't he slightly psychotic? Yeah. This is the guy who wouldn't just reveal a magic trick so he can propose to someone.
Touche.
So hey, the final page. It's just, especially when she's reading it, and then Ted watching from the GNB building, even though he can't really see, but that final shot, and that was something. I'm like, this Ted and Robin's story isn't over. I knew with that shot.
Yeah, that I really like this episode, especially at the end where Barney comes down and you get the the full this is what has been going on the entire time, and you get to see the real great friendship between him and Patrice that has come forward. It's just hilarious.
I love when you see their side of the argument for the balcony. This is going great. I know.
My friends have no boundaries.
Yeah,
which they really don't. No, these are terrible friends.
No, those are great friends. I'd rather have my friends not have boundaries because it means they got my back all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And luckily, I have friends that are halfway there.
Not only that, but I think this is the real. I agree with Matt where I watched the episode and you see from that look, oh, this story isn't over. But you also get the feeling from this, okay, so we're going to wrap up the Rob and Barney stuff. I didn't think it would take 2 seasons to get there to the wrap up, but I'm really glad that it did. Because I think that was a lot of enjoyable stuff. You know, my reservations about how things ended up, I think it's still a really sweet moment and a great spot of character development for Barney.
My favorite part of this is after she reads the entire thing and she goes into her tirade, like, why would you lied to me? Like, why would I ever do that with you?
And then he's like, turn it over.
Yeah. She says yes, and then it's him. It's like, oh, that's just... Okay, so Ben, what is your number 4?
Thanksgiving.
Really? I thought that would have been higher on your list.
Slapsgiving, you said?
No,
Blitz.
Oh, Blitzkid.
Oh, that was in my honorable mentions.
Not on my list.
Not on my list.
I love this episode. We all know the story. Ted is Mexico turkey. He realizes, I almost said Emma. He realizes Zoe snapped in the bathtub. They realize they end up spending Thanksgiving with her. And it is a great episode. And the guy who played the Blitz is great. I forget his actor's name on. He was on Lost.
Jorge Garcia.
Yeah.
My favorite scene of the whole show is in this episode. And that is the scene when they're looking for random numbers and Hurley shuts out the famous Lost numbers. You have Lost, Once Upon a Time, and How I Met Your Mother in one scene for like maybe 10 seconds, and this makes my heart warm and happy.
Wasn't this the Turkey episode?
Yes.
Yes,
it was. Ben, you're talking right to me. Lost is in my famous 3-way tie for my favorite show of all time.
It's in my top 10. I've only watched it once.
It's my number 2.
Yeah. Like, and you're so right. And the reason this was in my honorable mentions is, like, I think that this episode does what the best episodes do, where it's comedy, but then when you look back at the episode on a second viewing, it's just tragedy after tragedy and stuff. And you get to find out about oh my god, Zoe and like her with the captain's daughter and stuff, and then all the subtle keys leading up to it. I think the Zoe Ted stuff is probably my favorite Ted incarnation.
Really?
Yeah, again, Ted's not my favorite. Ted's my least favorite character on the show, so this is
Ted
the highest.
Ted Victoria might be mine, but any moment he has in season 9 with the mother tops almost everything for me.
That's fair.
I will say that Zoe, outside of the mother, is my favorite romantic partner for Ted.
I couldn't stand Zoe personally.
I also could not stand Zoe, but I like Ted with Zoe.
I didn't like Ted with Zoe. I really didn't, because to me, I see Ted with Zoe and I see a man compromising everything he believes in.
No.
Interesting.
He only does that for one episode, though.
No, he does that entire time he's dating him.
Up until I think the second last episode of their relationship.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah. For me, my favorite part is seeing
whichever that Thanksgiving at Marshall and or the party at Marshall and Lily's was, because the breakup glasses.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I love most about this episode is Barney turning into a sad sack and missing everything.
Yeah.
Zoe walking topless right behind him, to that amazing weird coin trick that happened that could only happen with the help of CGI. Just I just love seeing Barney go, "Oh man!"
Well,
Hey, he got lucky in the end though. He got
Oh yeah!
that
Oh, thank God!
Blitz. Oh man!
How about the famous music call out? We look great and finish
Yes,
out.
this is show,
Mhm.
right?
I'm not the Blitz. I'm the Bueller. You're the Blitz.
Yeah. Oh my god, such a good. That really is a testament to the show. That like even an episode that was in only one of our top fives, like was so good, right? Like that's the story of this show.
Yeah,
Again, I'm trying to rehabilitate my image from the beginning.
That is one thing I did notice on this rewatch is like there are episodes I do like least, but there's not one that I can say is a bad episode. Yes, it includes the finale, Dave.
Again, I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. I'm not like Matt telling me you're thinking it wrong.
Oh, let's not get into that again. Okay. My number 4 now. Oh,
Yeah.
so you're going to see a theme throughout my episodes, and Ben already knows what this theme is. My number 4 is Symphony of Illumination. It's the episode where Robin finds out she can't have kids.
Yeah. Okay.
And now what I like here is that you see, even though Robin has always said she does not want kids, she always like
That
the
was
idea
the
that
one time she wished she could have them.
yeah, but one time she wished she could have them. And we see her, the way it's structured, where we see her talking to her imaginary kids, and then after the fact, where it's revealed that they're imaginary, and she's sitting on a park bench by herself on Christmas drinking eggnog in Central Park, like. It's pretty sad. And then it's when she gets home and Ted's waiting there for her. And he says, yes, it is, because they had that argument earlier in the night where she yells at him and says, it is not your job to make me happy. And he comes back with a full living room full of lights and all this stuff. And he says, yes, it is.
I'm on the highway to hell.
And then they don't say, he says to her, you don't have to tell me what's going on, but don't forget I'm always here for you. And she just cries into his arms. And you said it was the look in the final page. For me, it was this episode.
See, the reason I say it was look in the final page is because at that point, if you're not paying attention, you would think that it's over. Especially now that she's engaged and we're supposed to get this wedding, and so.
So for me, because I say this episode is like, yes, I would do anything to cheer my friends up, but myself personally, I don't know if I would go to the lengths that Ted did to cheer her up.
I would. I've done that before.
Yeah, and I think
lights and
no, just like an equivalent of how far I've gone for.
Yeah.
Now, for full disclosure, I have not had the reason to go that far, so the chance I probably will. But from where I'm at right now, looking at that episode, it's like, okay, you could tell just right from there that there is something on his end.
And if I can be totally honest, I really like this episode because it does what I've realized in my adult life is my favorite thing, which is just strong bonds of love through friendship. And I think that this episode is probably the thing that, like, this episode probably makes me like the finale less because I'm like, oh my God, they're such great friends. They're such great friends.
That's not friendship. You don't do that for a friend.
That you just said you did equivalents for your friends.
No,
Are you marrying that person?
I didn't say
for a friend.
I didn't say for a friend.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough. But regardless, I think I'm just like, man, yeah, these are really great friends. And I love the extent because you see, I think it's because also the show is also largely about family and the family you build around yourself, and you'll do anything for your family. And it is really tragic. I think we can all relate to the experience of something we've said, I don't want to do that. I would never do that. And the moment it's taken off the table entirely, you're like, that's all I want to do now. And just for it to be something this serious and the camera pull out at the end really of the like you're not real. Really, it makes me tear up every time. This is a great episode.
Well, it's haunting. That scene of the kids disappearing, it haunts me. I get chills. It's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking every time I see it.
Yeah. And it's one of the few instances where you see Robin, who's normally a strong character, taking shit. You see her vulnerability in this episode, and that's one of the things that makes it onto my top 5 is because you see this version, the side of Robin that you never see.
Which so, by the way, I don't want your lawyer to go unnoticed because I heard it and I want it. It is appreciated. Nobody else gave it to you. Dave kept talking like I gotta give Soda his prop for the lawyer.
Yeah. I heard it too, but I was like, someone's got this. Someone's got this. I'm the one getting lawyered. I can't say that.
I missed it.
I can't lawyer myself.
I missed it. Sorry.
What is your number 4, Dave?
This is one I'm sure that will get paused, as we have discussed, that it will get talked about down the road. It's How Your Mother Met Me.
Oh, that's a
pause. That's a big pause.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine that was a pause. I can imagine. All right.
Okay, so Matt, what is your number 3?
Something new.
Oh. Okay.
Which is, if I remember correctly, the season 8 finale. And it was just seeing what we had an idea of. This isn't over for Ted. It really isn't over. And then as soon as you think it's not over, we as the audience get to meet the mother.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that the last scene from that music, and they all start their journeys. It's just like I love it. I love it. And I love the callbacks to everything earlier in the episode. Lily's like, she might just be walking around in these boots and this and that. I'm like, oh my God. I remember being a senior in high school and just going, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I thought, part of me as a senior thought, we're going to get halfway up and it's going to cut and say to be continued. And that was just the cynic in me at that time. I was like,
so I'm glad the creditor too is saying and introducing Kristen Milotti as the mother.
Yes.
Like, yes.
Which, by the way, I wish we had Quiz Show from Schmo Me the Money here, because he actually grew up with Kristen Milotti's brother and knows her, and yeah.
So I'm reaching out to him because I'm in love with Kristen Milotti. But anyways,
it's a crime that she's not
exactly
a bigger deal than she is.
Oh,
like it's a crime that she's not a big deal.
It's Milioti, by the way, Milioti, not
Did you guys see Palm Springs last year?
No,
it was okay. She showed if you love her, you'll love that.
That's what Ben had told me. Yeah.
That was her breakout role, honestly. Not the mother, but that was her breakout role.
Not Wolf of Wall Street. She got eclipsed by Margot Robbie.
She really did.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like, it's not anywhere on my list, but this is the first time we get to see the mother, and that's for me what makes the episode memorable.
Right.
I really like this episode too, because I think it, despite my reservations, I like seeing the extent of friendship again. And I know we're going to say that this isn't friendship, but I think something like this, once we find out the full extent, maybe not, but just sitting there in the rain with someone, I think we can all relate to doing something like that for a friend. And then,
yeah,
I also really like
have to get through Dave's takes.
I also really enjoy though the date that Barney and Robin are on that night with just like the other couple that they're trying to sabotage.
That's not that episode.
That's the episode.
Is that not that episode?
No, it's the episode 4. I believe.
That's the episode.
Is that
4.
not something new?
No, it is
not. No, you're thinking something
something old?
Something old.
Or something old.
I think everything I just said was from something old.
Before. Yeah.
Never mind. Oh no, this is never. Okay, you know what? I clearly can't remember this episode. I'll shut up now.
No, actually, hold on. No, you're right. Keegan Michael Peele, the girlfriend stuff, is this episode. The carousel setup is the episode prior.
I think I just put those to me. I guess to me this is a two-parter, even though it's technically two separate episodes because it's something borrowed,
something new.
Yeah,
right.
Something old, something new, and then something borrowed is in the next season, if I remember correctly.
Is it the next season? No, something borrowed and something blue. I think are in season 2.
Is that the Marshall and Lily episode?
The Marshall Lily.
Yeah, something. Yeah, but no. But let's be honest. Do we all agree that those two are basically a two-parter? Because it is what.
Yeah, no,
So let's talk about both of them then, because that's a two-parter to me. Because I like Dave. I always think of it as, I think Ted. How I just remembered it in my head is Ted finds out about the locket, and he remembers where it is, and this is when he's telling Lily about everything. So
this is when he tells her about Chicago. Right?
You are correct, because I rewind, because yes, he's telling Lily about Chicago while Barney and Robin are on the date. That is it.
Okay.
Oh, he was already moving to Chicago in the finale.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he'd already told Lily.
Yeah, because at that point, because the last season all takes place in 36 hours, if I'm remembering.
Yeah. I think it's 50 some odd hours.
Yeah, because it's 2.5 days. But because the season ends with Barney and Robin are packed up Barney's apartment. They're gonna move, and everyone's moving out. Everyone's going to Rome, going to Chicago, going to get married. Everyone's doing their shit.
Gotcha. Okay.
Great. Here's the thing. Great episodes, both of them. No matter which one we're talking about, I like both of them. Again, I don't like the extent. I think Ted's stepping over some boundaries.
It's so this show takes place 55 hours before the wedding. I just started episode 1 of season 9. Starts 55 hours before the wedding. That's what we start off at for season 9.
So yeah, 2.5 days. Okay.
2.5 days.
Okay. Ben, what is your numero 3?
The bracket.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I didn't even think of that, but that's a good one.
I love this episode because it basically Barney being punished for everything he's done previously.
Yes.
And I love it. But can I be honest? My favorite part of this episode is that Tag in the Dookie house almost. And it takes me back to my childhood.
Yeah, Ben is a big Doogie Howser fan. Yes.
This was the episode that made me realize all the websites were real. Because this is the episode where he stands up and says, Ted Mosby is a jerk.com. And I think I was 17 or something at the time. And I was putting that into the old Google machine, and it came up real. And I was like, oh my God, it's fantastic. And it's a great episode.
And the website is still active.
Yeah. Fun fact. Every episode, every website that they mentioned in the show at one point was. A lot of them have lapsed now, but a lot of them have not. But the bracket, and I think Barney and Lily are probably the pairing that gets the most play throughout the entirety of the show in a platonic way, where the two of them together are never great. And Lily just going on the parade of sluts, I think as she calls it, is so fantastic.
Yeah.
Of apologizing to the Elite Eight.
And it goes, this is another episode in the long line of establishing just actually how different and close Lily and Barney's relationship is. Because he's the only one, probably before he marries Robin, that he can confide everything that is in him to. And the fact that she's the one that goes with him on this, it kind of just shows how strong their friendship is.
Exactly, yeah. I really like that. And again, it's one of those things where just really strong platonic friendships are my favorite things in movies. I cry at the end of my best friend's wedding and stuff when shows up and is like, oh, he knew that she'd need her and stuff. So I love the two of them going through it all together, even though it's a classic example of Barney doesn't learn his lesson.
Oh,
he learns the wrong lesson from all of this.
Yeah.
I love the episode so much. It's so fantastic.
Yeah, it's a very funny episode. I love how everybody just gets right into it, like breaking down the story.
Exactly.
So my number 3, if it wasn't for my 2 and 1, would be my number 1, and it is Time Travelers.
Oh, that's such a good episode. It's in my honorable mentions.
Yeah, Time Travelers. Very good episode. Yeah, because you're sitting here with Ted reliving all these memories, only to find out that all these memories happened at different times in his life. He's sitting here by himself because Marshall and Lily are with their child. Barney and Robin are planning their wedding. He's sitting there deciding whether or not to go to Robots versus Wrestlers. And I kind of relate to that because I am a single person in a group of people that are married with kids. So I understand that feeling. Mm-hmm. And I somehow understood it back then the first time I saw it, because this episode's been up there for me since the beginning. But it's the final scene where he's just like, yeah, I could have gone to Robots and Wrestlers, but really what I should have done is I should have gone to my apartment one last time. I should have gone and spent time with your Uncle Marshall and Aunt Lily and lifted your cousin Marvin over my head, which, can you imagine me doing that to your 6'7" cousin? And then listening to Robin and Barney argue about what their wedding and stuff like that. But it's when he realizes, it says, no, there is one thing I would love to do above all. And he goes and he knocks on the mother's door while this great piece of music composed for the show called You're Not Alone is playing. And he knocks on her door and in tears says, hi, we're going to meet 45 days from now. I'm Ted Mosby. You're the love of my life. Just goes on this speech professing his love to a total stranger. And at the first time viewing it, not knowing what's going to happen later, you're like, oh, that's cool. He wishes, he's going to spend the rest of his life with her.
Let's telegraph that entire episode.
And then when you find to hear what happens, and then you go back and watch that episode, it just hits you in a totally different
because he said something like, I would take any extra moment I could have with you. When you hear that line, and this is why I call the finale beautiful as much as Dave. This episode is one of the reasons why I believe the finale is enhanced.
And the finale enhances a lot of previous episodes as well.
I want to make it very clear. I don't care that the mother dies, and I love these episodes get enhanced by the finale. This is such a good episode, not only in the musical choices, but in the watching it back. Once you know the twist, you're like, oh, the twist is kind of like an anti-twist, where it's like the most obvious thing is he's having a conversation alone. Mm-hmm. But once you know that is what it is, it's so heartbreaking. And it goes back to that line that I was talking about, where the show is at its best, where it is comedy and then tragedy layered on top of it. And also has, for the longest time, ever been
one of the best tanks.
Now, at that,
Billy Joel himself on the recording. I just want to throw that out there.
That's awesome. Now, at that finale party I mentioned earlier, did me and 3 of my friends do that entire song? Yes, we did. Yeah. Yes, we did. Did we plan it out 6 weeks earlier and rehearse every day after class? Yes, we did. Nice. Was it beautiful? It sounded beautiful to our drunk ears. That's all I'll say.
So before, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Also, like, how much does it suck that Robots versus Wrestlers is not a real thing, right?
Not really.
It sounds like something you'd hear in Mexico, really.
Robots.
Ben, your thoughts on this episode?
I echo everything you guys said. It's a great, fun episode with an amazing twist that, well, for me, I didn't see coming, right? And I first watched it. And, knowing what happened to the mother at the end only makes that final scene that much more heartbreaking to me.
And speaking of that final scene, I did it when we talked about this episode during the season's recap. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to read that little speech. Hi, I'm Ted Mosby, In exactly 45 days from now, you and I are going to meet, and we're going to fall in love, and we're going to get married, and we're going to have 2 kids, and we're going to love them and each other so much. All of that is 45 days away, but I'm here now, I guess, because I want those extra 45 days. With you, I want each one of them. And if I can't have them, I'll take the 45 seconds it takes before your boyfriend shows up and punches me in the face because I love you. I'm always going to love you till the end of my days and beyond.
And that last half of it is exactly
Yes.
where you're.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense when you know what happens in the future.
And Dave, I do gotta change my stance on you a little bit, because a lot of the reason people hate the finale is because of the mother dying. You said it is not the reason you hate it, so I'll soften up on you.
Thank you. I'm glad the hit squad is no longer coming. I
Yeah.
Oh no, it's still coming, but not as hard.
damn.
I'm not this about the mother dying. Like I too, I'm fine with her dying because that shit happens in real life. The only issue I have with it is I wish we got more than a throwaway scene. That's the only issue I have. It's in like 5 seconds in the hospital. I wish we got a little bit more of her being sick. And,
If I may be the guy defending the mother dying, which I don't know why it's me on this show, you kind of get more of that throughout the entirety of the final season.
Yes, you do.
in that specific episode, I wish we just got something more than just a shot of her in the hospital room.
No, that's the perfect way to handle it, honestly.
Okay.
Because if you're in the finale, if you make that too heavy-handed in something that you know people may already be upset about, it just makes the situation a whole lot worse.
I gotta agree with Matt here. I think that it was the death there handled perfectly, the way they should have handled it.
It is a fair point. It's just for me personally, I don't know. I felt after all this time we spent with the mother, I just kind of felt like it was just a little too throwaway for me. But that's just
that's why a lot of people. I will say, when the show ended, a lot of people felt like we should have gotten that the 9th season should have been the 9th season, but we should have gotten the 10th season where we got to spend more time with the mother, get to see them.
Yeah, I'm fine with how it ended.
I'm fine with how it ended, but I just know a lot of people did feel that way, and I can understand that to a certain degree. I felt we spent just the perfect amount of time with the mother, but
it doesn't help that I fell so much in love with the mother that season. She's my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say that right now. She's my
easily,
yeah, and so that's probably what weighs into that my line of thinking. But Dave, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is, when I was putting together this top 5 list, I realized something about this show that I usually hate, but for whatever reason, this show makes it worse. I love the guest stars on this show, the minor reoccurring characters. So the first episode that in my top 3, all including guest stars, is going to be Singles Stamina. The first episode with Wayne
James.
Brady, Barney's gay black brother,
Awesome.
which when you meet, when I rewatched that episode to make sure that it was definitely still in my top 3, Robin's whole, I would have never seen you with a gay black brother. I'm like, it was 2007. It was 2005. It was a different time. We were talking about different things then. But this episode is it shows everyone in such great ways. We get a great parallel between Marshall and Ted are like, oh, it's so hard being a girl. Everyone wants to sleep with me and buy me a drink.
I can drink fruity drinks without persecution.
I get that. I think also...
I say, fuck the haters. Fruity drinks are awesome.
I mean, I drink White Russians and I get shit for it at the bar. I'm like, look, it tastes like chocolate milk if made right. I love it.
This episode also reminds me a lot of the first time me and some friends went to a gay bar with our gay friend. And it was like we had a very similar experience to this.
I'm not gay. I'm not gay.
Where I was Marshall in that situation where I'm like, I can buy this appletini and no one's gonna make fun of me. What?
Yeah, I understand perfectly.
But also, like the setup that you get throughout the entire thing, where Ted in the future goes through and it's like, you can see who's single and who's not, and the way that episode ends at James's wedding And you're like, oh, Robin and Ted have broken up. They're not going home now. They're telegraphing that to us that this relationship is not going to work. But then also the whole, I don't support this lifestyle, gay marriage. No, marriage.
Yeah, I love how for Barney,
the only married guy here.
Yeah, I'm engaged.
I just love how Barney, like, all those things are not like racially motivated or not like homophobic related or whatever. It's just it's the institution of marriage itself. It's like,
and I also love the quick turnaround of what changed. We're having a baby. Oh, I'm gonna be an uncle.
This is the first episode where we find out Barney really loves kids, isn't it?
Yes. And I think that this episode really, you see going forward, this is the first episode that you see the change in him where you're like, oh, this is a terror. He doesn't like this life. He wants to be better. He just isn't ready yet.
Yeah, or doesn't know how.
I don't want to say argue. For one tidbit in. At the end of the episode with Barney's flashback, you see then after all the cake leaves, and he still has a phone with, what's her name? His girlfriend that she left him.
Oh, okay, I remember her name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The one he was supposed to go to Nicaragua.
Yeah, that one. You can see him look at the phone all alone for a millisecond, looking at her and looking at her kid, saying, I could maybe have this someday.
I never noticed that.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
I think you're right.
I wouldn't be surprised if the guys who created this did that because they're known for throwing this type of stuff in there.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to come out of this is how Barney thinks that James and his husband are the best example of a married couple, when really, like, Marshall and Lily are right there.
Well, but to be fair, you know, if we're comparing Wayne Brady to Jason Segel, like, come on. Like, you know.
I'm still picking Jason Segel 9 times out of 10.
You do you, man. You do you.
At this point, Marshall and Lily are not married yet.
They're not married, no.
No, they're not.
They're not, but I mean, like, in later seasons, Barney will.
Okay, but at this point, they're not.
At this point, no.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on to our number 2. So, Matt, what is your number 2?
The best burger.
Nice.
Oh my God, Matt! Are we best friends?
No,
that's
Dave,
my
no,
number
Dave.
2.
I love how this is like the beginning of Ted and Barney's relationship.
Soda, you want to know what's great? I get to leave this stuff off, so I'm not copying anyone. Hey-oh!
Nice.
Bitch, I have a speech.
High five!
Yeah. Virtual high five. So, what is this that makes it your number 2 favorite episode?
Just the perseverance. Like Davis brought up a lot about how well the show blends its comedy and its real life situations. This episode was the perfect that, because all Marshall wants to do is get this burger before he signs on to do something that he doesn't want to do, but he needs to do to survive. And that's life. Mm-hmm. So he wants that last bit of freedom. What that burger represents is just insane.
Say it.
But I still my buddy did that. My buddy did that for me to me earlier. The way he describes the burger, and then Lily's like, and you got your vows off the internet.
Yeah. Now, Matt, if I can stop you right there, this is where the story that I was going to tell comes in. So, in grade 11, so I was also a theater kid, just like you guys. I just didn't want to flaunt it earlier.
And theater kid?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Nah.
I did one thing in Hebrew school, and I had one line, and I can remember that one line.
There's no room at the inn?
Big mistake.
Oh,
I don't take that with me forever.
So you're a theater kid at someone playing.
So I was a theater kid. Grade 11, we did Macbeth, and I auditioned for it, and they said prepare a monologue. And for my monologue, I did the Marshall describing the perfect burger.
Yes.
And now, if I may have the floor for 110 seconds, I realized rewatching this, I still had it memorized.
No way. Do it, man. Do it,
Hold
boy.
up. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna test this, man.
Go for it. Now, I have been drinking a little bit, so some of the pauses may be in the wrong spot, but I swear, yesterday, I did it perfectly.
Beautiful.
Do you have it? Tell me when to go, Matt.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I didn't get Macbeth. I got Banquo, so I didn't nail the audition.
Dude, Banquo's still a good character.
He's a great character, but I didn't get Macbeth.
Yeah.
Just a burger? Just a burger. Robin, it is so much more than just a burger. I mean, that first bite. What heaven, that first bite. Like this, the bun, like a sesame freckled breast of an angel, resting on a gentle blend of ketchup and mustard below. Fuck! I can't do it, man. I'm on camera now, and I can't do it. I got so
you missed. So you missed an O, and here's where you fucked up. Like the bun, like sesame freckled breast of an angel, resting gently on the ketchup and mustard below. Flavors mingling in a seductive pot.
Okay, so I got it from here, and then a pickle, the most playful little pickle. Then a slice of tomato, a leaf of lettuce, and a patty of ground beef so exquisite, swirling around in your mouth, breaking and combining again in a fugue of sweet and savory, so delightful. This is no mere sandwich, Robin. This is God speaking to us through food.
You missed it. You missed the big line in that last sentence.
Did I?
And it's breaking apart. Well, this isn't line you missed. This is when you just flushed it up a little bit. Breaking apart and combining again in a fugue of sweets and savor, so delightful.
You know, this is why I only got.
Yeah.
This
Here,
is why I only got Banquo,
yeah.
not Macbeth.
Here is the big part of the final two lines you missed. This is no mere sandwich of grilled meat and toasted bread, Robin.
Damn it.
This is God speaking to us in food. In food.
So I just want to say that if my friends ever did to me what they do to Robin in this episode, I will shank a bitch.
And like, so I know we just spent the last 2 minutes in me trying to relive my 15-year-old self, but like this was so good, and it shares another theme that you're gonna see because I will see my Wayne Brady, and I'll raise you a Regis Philbin, where Barney is like, Regis, he works out at my gym, and they're like, we gotta go,
and then Regis is a dick in that.
He's a fucking redhead.
It's like, I never saw it. What are you doing? Get out of here. Find me that place. And he keeps showing up. And then even the stinger at the end where he's like, it's not it. And everyone's like, Regis, no.
Wait.
For me, it's where he's just like, God. And then you hear like a crunch over the phone. And you go back and he put his fist through a fucking mailbox.
Yeah. But like Matt said, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up time, but this is also my number 2, where you're so right. Like, it's one of those episodes that the underpants radius is the biggest tragedy ever introduced.
And it's so true. It's so true. I've seen it on people. I've lived through it. It's true. It may not be losing a job or anything, but it just...
Yeah.
I was unemployed for 8 months, and you know what? There was one time where I was like, these boxers kind of look like shorts.
Yeah.
I could probably go to the deli. You know?
That was definitely me when I got laid off at the beginning of COVID. That was, underwear for 5 weeks.
It was, for me, it was after a breakup. For like the first week or so, There's one time I just walked out taking trash up front, and I was in my underwear, just a long shirt and some boxers, and just walking out. And it's just like, oh, like, oh, I'm like, oh, they're just compression pants. They weren't. They were boxers.
Very nice.
But
on that image, Ben, what is your number 2?
Sunrise.
Oh, that's not on anywhere on my list, but that is
not on my list.
So, sorry. Soda talked too fast. What was it?
Sunrise.
I hate Ted.
Okay, well, I love this episode because it makes me Robin and Ted walking on the beach, and then slowly Ted letting go of Robin. Because he knows he has to move on because he knows Robin is very important and they need to move on. And they're going through all his past relationships. And slowly you realize how far he went to find that fucking market to give to him. It is a great episode and I love that scene when he finally tells you why he ended up breaking up with Victoria.
Yep.
Because he couldn't not be friends with Robin if that meant keeping Victoria. It is a really beautiful episode with a ending that still makes me teary-eyed. Seeing Robin metaphorically float away from Ted.
Yeah.
And
to the song "Eternal Flame" by the Bangles.
it is a really beautiful episode, and I just love it.
So, on that note, would you do what Ted did if your girlfriend doesn't like one of your friends and makes you choose? Would you do that? Because I wouldn't a fucking heartbeat.
I would.
No.
I would do what Ted did.
If your friends can't, if your romantic partner can't accept who your friends are, find somebody else. Because
It's almost like
there's another episode in the series that does that, where it's like it doesn't matter what my friends think of my romantic partner. I forget who it was, but it's like in the middle of the series. But it matters what my partners think about what my friends think about my partner.
It was what's
Stella.
her name?
Stella.
No.
it wasn't Stella.
Is that
Well, no. Then they had the intervention episode.
No, it was the one Love That 70s show, Karen.
Oh,
it was Karen.
Yes.
Yeah, was it it was the episode where we find out that Lily's been sabotaging a million relationships, which is a great episode all to itself because Robin's whole show goes on in the background. A birth happens, a heart attack.
Yeah.
Birth. Can we just acknowledge How I Met Your Mother might have had the first Karen?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
All right, so what's yours? What's your number 2?
So,
oh my god, I just realized something terrible.
What?
No, so to go, and then I think it's going to become apparent.
Okay. So I want you guys to tell me if you can spot the theme in my list based off of my number 2.
Oh, I know your number 2.
You know what the theme is. It's the episode Last Words.
Yeah.
It's the most heartbreaking moments with the mother.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, the last words where Marshall says goodbye to his father. But that's as much as I love Jason Segel in that scene outside of the church where he's venting his frustration about his father being taken away from him so fast, his best friend and Barney not arguing that point, which is a growth for Barney.
Yeah.
Not arguing that point, and him's like, my dad's last words to me, don't forget to watch Crocodile 93.
At the same time, that moment caused a huge point in character development in Barney because
I'm getting to that. As much as like it's all Jason Segel scene, watch Neil Patrick Harris in the background.
Yeah.
For me, that is Neil Patrick Harris' best acting in the show without saying a word. Because once you know what's going to happen later on and you go revisit, you can see all the pain on his face about shit. One of my best friends just lost his father. I don't, and without saying goodbye to him, I don't want to miss out on the opportunity of knowing my father. And you can tell that just by the look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, damn, that's really good acting.
To me, that I do agree with you about the that being one of Neil Patrick Harris's best scenes. But to me, nothing beats Marshall in that scene. I'm sorry, like Jason Segel has always been basically pegged as the funny guy, and this
I don't know if I did say that. I said like it's Neil Patrick Harris's best.
I know. I'm saying no. I was interjecting my opinion that I agree. I agree it's one of his best scenes. I don't think it is his best scene. That's why I said one of his best scenes.
Gotcha.
But no, that for someone who's always been pigeonholed as the comedy guy and this, that, and the other, to see him, because Jason, a lot of people know this. Jason Segel doesn't like that he's basically been pigeonholed as the comedy guy.
That's why he hasn't done any comedy since the show ended. Except for the Muppets.
That was a tragedy.
You hush your tone.
Well, I love it, but it's a tragedy.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry to back to your it is also Jason Segel's best acting for sure. Yeah. That combined with the end of the episode prior when he finds out his dad passed away, which is an entirely improvised scene because he didn't know that Allison Hannigan was going to say that.
It's a fantastic episode because it really shows it's such a real thing that so many people who have lost anyone can relate to. And at the same time, you think about, you want to hold on to those last few moments and think that they're going to be something poignant. But at the end of the day, no matter what, the last words were the last words because that's what was special to you. And the fact that Rent Crocodile Dundee is just, that's so beautiful that he gives that as his eulogy. And I tear up every time.
I love that.
Yeah. This was in my honorable mentions. It was fighting with the limo.
And then let's not forget all the B plot, how everybody's trying to do their part for the wedding. So you got Lily, who finally realizes she can get Marshall's mom to vent at her and get her to eat and sleep, which is fun. You got Ted and Barney trying to do all their best to make Marshall laugh to the point where Barney punches Ted in the nuts, which never stopped making me laugh. And then Robin being the hookup at the wedding for
and then accidentally giving a teenager alcohol.
Yeah. She's a teenager? Wow, they grown big in Minnesota. Okay, Dave.
Now, my number 2 was Best Burger in NYC, but based on how we are and the punts, I would like to talk about my number 1 first.
No.
That my number
mentions first.
Honorable mentions, he said.
Yeah, it's very clear. We'll do honorable mentions, but I'd like to go first because my number 4 has been made very clear that it's a lot of other people's number 1.
Fair.
Okay.
But we can do honorable mentions first.
We will alter it a little bit. We'll do the honorable mentions. We'll let you do your number 1, and then we will get into everybody else.
Because I think that's a conversation for everybody to have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Matt, start us off with the honorable mentions.
So I already mentioned Girls versus Suits.
Yeah.
My other 4 honorable mentions were How I Met Everyone Else.
This is a good episode.
That's a good one.
The Naked Man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Slap Bet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Bad News.
Nice. Bad News is a good one.
Bad News is such a good one also because once you know the number trick that there's
the countdown. Which, by the way, until this last rewatch, I always thought they jumped from like 30 to like the early 20s, and then I finally caught everything on the TV.
Yeah.
The TV is how they trick you. I'm like, wait. Why did you jump from like the early 30s to?
But then they're doing the weather 31, 30, 34, 31, 32, which I'm like, it's so hot there.
That was all your honorable mentions?
Those were all my honorable mentions.
Ben?
My honorable mentions. The Pilot.
Yeah.
Last Forever. Glitter. End of the Aisle. And Dancing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So my honorable mentions are the first Slapsgiving episode, because I love how Bonnie harmonizes his pain. Legend Daddy. and the final page part 2.
So my honorable mentions are The Chain of Screaming. Fantastic episode with Bob Odenkirk. As I said, I love a guest star.
Mhm.
We already talked about the playbook. Or we didn't. The playbook's another one. 3 Days of Snow is another one because you get to see puzzles for the first time, and you also get the rare Marshall Robin pair up, which I really like.
That's true.
And the pineapple incident, which I really like as a Memento style break it all
Which
down.
later leads to Ted getting a 3-way. Ayo.
Yeah. I just got my very first WWE title belt this weekend, and now I'm kind of kicking myself for not getting the late 80s, early 90s WWF title belt, because that is the one that they use for the 3-way.
I got the really trivia belt. That's the closest I got to a title belt.
Mine's in my living room, unfortunately.
Don't worry, Soda. You'll be competing for this soon. We finally figured everything out.
Good. I can't wait. Wait. Okay, so because we pretty much know what everyone else's number one is, Dave, what is your number one?
No, you don't know my number one.
Oh, so we're gonna let Ben go first, because if it's in the order, Ben would be next.
Okay, Ben will go first.
Dave, everyone else.
Ben, what is your number one?
It's not meant.
Slap bet. Okay.
I just love this episode because yes, I could have gone with the more heavy stuff, but this is basically what a show is. A bunch of guys, and then a bunch of friends finding out their history. And the whole episode, there's the secret that Robin doesn't like to go to malls. Everybody wants to know why.
This episode gives us Robin Sparkles. That's why it's my honorable mention.
Yeah, I mean, that reveal at the end of Robin Sparkles, man, I can watch that on loop every day. And
that has to be the best recurring bit that's ever had from the show.
Oh, yeah.
What are you talking about? Robin Sparkles or Slap Bet? They're both great.
That is true. We do have, this episode did introduce us to 2 recurring themes. That's true.
I would go with Robin Sparkles over Slap Bet, personally. I just love each time you find out a little bit more about her and Robin's past, you mean.
I'm a big fan of Robin Daggers, personally.
You are beautiful.
Yes, I love you.
Just so grungy.
And it's Paul fucking Schaefer.
Hey, you Canadians do your thing. I'm gonna do
yeah, we're all weird like that.
Hey.
All right, Dave, go ahead.
My number one was actually mentioned in Soda's honorable mentions.
Oh, Legendary.
Which is Legend Daddy. And it really came down to which John Lithgow episode is going to be my favorite. Because it was this, or it was, is it Foolish? Is the other John? I'm not great with episode titles. But the one where they all hang out and go to the bar together.
Hopeless.
That's what it is. This episode, it does exactly what my favorite things are, where it starts out and everyone's like, Ted, this is a stupid idea. We start at Ted's new house that we know he's gonna fix up and it's gonna become and then we see the intervention for Barney because he wrote his dad back at Marshall's dad's funeral, and John Lithgow is the perfect person to be Barney's reformed party dad. And the way that Barney both enhances his character by lying to everyone and saying, my dad was awesome, he's going to take me on the Asian leg, to John Lithgow coming clean to everyone, to the dinner that he has with JJ. What gym do you work out at, JJ? Fourth period. It sounds like you're getting your fourth period. To, I think, my favorite ending of any episode is Barney looking out the window and saying, the kid needs a hoop, as he's holding the hoop he stole from his dad's house. this also has another really relatable moment where everyone is talking about their gaps in knowledge, but no one wants to tell Marshall because his dad just died. And it's like, Lily, we are living with a possum. Rex is violent and he hates us. Please, just be honest with me. And just these moments of realness mixed with comedy shows me How I Met Your Mother at its best. It's also a very light Ted episode, which I appreciate.
You really hate Ted.
I do.
Let's not gloss over though Barney's tirade towards John Lithgow, where he's taking that.
Oh my god!
It is set up earlier that Barney never did know how to use a tool.
If you were going to be someone's lame suburban dad, why couldn't you be that for me?
Yeah.
Now, does that fully track with the Barney then becomes a hippie thing? It doesn't super track, but at the same time, it shows you at that moment, this is why Barney is the way he is.
Yeah.
And it breaks your heart every time because we've all been disappointed in some way. And it also shows the biggest change in him where he goes from stripper pole outside to the kid needs a hoop.
Yeah. To show he's really the one with the daddy issues.
Oh, we always knew that, but
yeah. Okay, so now time for mine and Matt's number one. Matt, take her away.
So we started this list together. We're ending the list together.
Damn right.
The two Matts, Matt squared. This is honestly the most beautiful episode, and it literally, the reason being is because we see how present the mother has been in the series without being there.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see the famous St. Patrick's Day, where that's out of all the times where he's nearly met the mother, including the time where he saw her foot. This was the one that was most memorable to me because he's always like, if your mother had met me that night, she would hate me.
Yeah, agreed.
And it's the first time we get anything Naked Man, or it's the callback to the Naked Man.
Which she is the one out of three that didn't work.
Correct. And like I said, you and I brought it up early. You see how their stories mimic each other, but in reverse. So
yeah, no, I agree. This has to be, in my opinion, the best episode where a pivotal character is introduced later in the run, and this is the best example of how you introduce a character and just how important she has been, like you said. Unbeknownst to everybody, how important she's been to everybody at some point or another. But for me, again, it comes back to it's the very end of the episode where, the episode is How Your Mother Met Me. It is the only one that I actually bought digitally, so I have it on my phone all the time. It's the only episode like that. But for me, the end of the episode where her boyfriend proposes to her and she goes outside and talks to her dead boyfriend who died at the beginning of the episode on her 21st birthday.
Yep.
And she speaks to him and she says, look, I want to move on, but I need a sign here. And she...
and then Lovey and Rose at the end breaks
exactly. She goes inside, she breaks it off with the boyfriend. She checks into the hotel, and I love how the concierge is like, I think this was the one.
The mother never showed up. Here, you can have this. I think this is one for you.
Yeah,
it brings out the youth,
which is what her late boyfriend gave her for her 21st birthday.
Mm-hmm. Which is, by the way, that is still my favorite cover of that song to this day.
Amen. I bought it the day it dropped on iTunes, and it's never left my phone.
I know there are people who prefer the Lady Gaga and A Star Is Born. No, this is the definitive version of Lovey and Rose,
and it's the tag at the end, not Barney getting drunk and wandering off. Not that tag. It's the tag where she finishes the song.
That is the first time I ever heard your mother sing.
Exactly.
And that is still,
the word, when he pans to Ted and he says, all these years I've heard your mother, many renditions, I've heard your mother sing this song to you.
This is still my favorite.
This is still my favorite. And I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. Like, it is such a beautiful moment.
This episode is so fantastic. And I'm sorry that was the way. So if I say anything that I didn't, if you guys already covered, say, Dave, shut the fuck up. But this was in my top 5 also. This is my number 4. Because this episode is so good for it had maybe the hardest job in television history, where for 9 years we had been set up with this mythical figure. And this episode had one job: make us fall in love and believe that person. Now, she's been sprinkled in through season 9, but we don't know her except for, she gives good advice. But this episode, you fall in love with this new character. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking when you know, because most people watching at this point have figured out she's going to die. But you hear, as you're saying, La Vida Rose, like the heartbreaking song there through her entire life. Also, this is the most fan service in the best way episode, where if you're watching it, it has all the best callbacks to the famous St. Patrick's Day. Yeah.
She's the one out of 3.
Yeah. To every time she talks, she is saying a reference to something Ted has talked about in some episode down the road. But at the same time, even when you know that, your brain and your heart trick you into being like, no, this is the perfect person in the world. This is the most amazing human. Mm-hmm. And it is such a... When the episode starts and you find out, she had a long-term boyfriend who died, it's like, okay, this is a weird way to start the episode. But then as you're watching, you just totally understand
Ted's journey.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, that works perfectly for me. The finale is ruined by the last 2 minutes. We're talking about a great episode.
Anyways, yes.
And but it's just such a fantastic episode because it has the hardest job in television history, where it is, this episode has to make the last
9 years.
9 years?
8 years. 8 years, because we're still in 2015. Yeah. So 8 years and all that time throughout it.
Yeah. This episode has to make everything we've watched, it has to make it worth it. It has to make it mean something to us.
Yeah, and if they hadn't have cast Kristen Milioti, this episode would not work.
No.
She is 100% the reason why the mother character works.
Yeah.
Well. And because of this episode, it made me realize this is the kind of person I want to end up with.
Yeah.
Hopefully she lives longer, but that's
yeah. And like, this is such an amazing episode. The only reason I have it at number 4 is because it's not, when I think of a top 5. No, as I've said, this is an amazing episode. I just, when I think of How I Met Your Mother, I think of Ted, Barney, Robin, Lily, Marshall. And I think this episode isn't about that. And that's through no fault of its own. It's perfect. It is, but it's not. So I don't feel good about having on the podium this episode that's not about the rest of the show. But
this episode is number 1.
Dave, here's how I'll rebut this. The show isn't How I Met Ted, Lily, Marshall, Barney, Robin. The show is How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
So this is finally the mother's moment, and that is why this episode.
And it was an 80-yard field goal. It was a 5-goal game in the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, this hit right what it was supposed to do.
And honestly, the way I fix that issue for me is the same thing I do with another one of my favorite shows, Lost, where Lost's second last episode is an episode that pretty much explains everything. And it's like, why is this the second last episode? So when I'm doing a rewatch, you know what I do? I watch that episode and then I watch the final season. And I do that every time I watch this show too, where I think knowing all this history, and I know she's peppered in there, but it makes those peppering ins mean so much more.
So you watched this one as a second to last, you said?
No, I watched this episode first, and then I watched season 9.
I would push back on that as the improper watching, because that you need to watch her meeting the other members of the group before you watch this episode, is what I would say. or you'd have to start and stop at certain points of this episode. That's
to me, watching this episode first and getting the history of this character, and because of the end of season 8, we know who this is already when we meet her throughout season 9. So it's essentially like, let's find out who this character is.
No. Because here,
is enhanced for me. Don't yuck my yum.
No, I'm not yucking your yum because we both agree we like this. What I'm saying is the episode only works for you that way because you've already seen those moments. You know those moments are coming. I try to go into this thinking of it as my first viewing anytime I watch this show. You have to look at it through that point of view. You can't just always look at, oh yeah, I've seen it already, so I know this. I feel it fits better here. Don't look at it that way. Look at it as a way of this is the show. Sure, we got to meet the mother, but nobody else has. The episode is and where it was released is in the perfect spot.
The only reason I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. The only reason I would push back about that is I have shown this to 2 other friends, and I've said, hey, this episode, watch it before the last season, and nobody's complained. They've all thought that it was fantastic.
That's fine. I'm just saying it's because my friend Nick. So you've met Nick. You were on the wrestling podcast. He's always watched the show in bits and pieces. I was doing when I started my rewatch middle of January. He had just gotten over. He was just getting over a breakup, so he's like, you know what? You told me whenever you ended up in a breakup, or one of the times you just rewatch. Make sure you rewatch it every year. He decided to start watching it, and he's on season 9, and he just got to that episode. He's like, yeah, it hit so much more the way it's presented.
Mm-hmm. I understand Dave's side because
I do understand it.
Mm-hmm. But I do fall on Matt's side where. We all agree it's a great episode. It's really how you want to digest it. It's whatever works for you, right?
Yeah. I won't allow it.
I love it.
I've been ready to say that whole episode.
But this episode really shows, I think, why it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, I think if this episode had failed, if this had been just a bad episode that we all looked back on and were like, I wish she had been a mystery to us, I think we would look back on the whole show differently. But the fact that this episode hits, it makes the series better.
Gotcha. I'm not going to argue that. And like I said, there's a reason why this is the only episode I've ever bought digitally, so I can have it on my phone at all times. Because it's so good.
You can download it on Netflix.
This was before I found out Netflix.
In the States, it's Hulu.
Yeah, and in Canada, Disney Plus as well.
I was just about to say.
Is it on D Plus?
It is on Disney Plus.
Disney owns it technically because it was a 20th Century Fox show, and it was on CBS, or I don't know what channel that is for you guys. What it would be on for you guys in Canada, but in the States, okay. So it was on CBS, but the show was made by Fox. So Disney owned when Disney bought Fox, they now own the rights to How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, look at that! There it is.
Yeah. Go ahead. There you go. Look at that. Okay, so before we wrap up, what are you guys' final thoughts on the series? And we'll start with you because you've been the most silent.
I'm really enjoying this conversation. What else can I say? This is an epic, legendary show. It always brings me joy whenever I watch it. I love the characters. This is friends for the new generation. And I don't mean... I don't know how I mean that. I just mean for our generation, I think they're like friends, but I might be wrong about that.
No, I'm with you there. I prefer this way over Friends.
And
it's because Friends is a bad show.
I agree with you there, Dave. Also, can we acknowledge the digs that this show takes at Friends in its second season?
Yes. Of course, in the Swartley episode.
Oh yeah.
It's like, see, coffee shop, not as good as a bar, not as good as a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am rewatching Friends right now, and I will say, better high. But anyways.
You can enjoy that in Canada. I can't in Ohio.
Oh, that sucks.
Canada. Canada.
Canada got something right.
Shrimp fried rice.
Matt, I'm glad
I
you got what I was doing. I'm
Canada.
glad you got what I was doing.
Yeah, I do love the digs at Canada, and honestly, a lot of them aren't true. We did have the 80s and the 1980s. The Tim Hortons thing is true, though. I mean, we all do.
So true.
Yes. Shitty thing, the one near down to me had it burnt the other day. There was a electrical fire.
Oh my god.
Canadian complaining about Tim Hortons burning down. Of course. All right.
So, the show to you, Matt.
It is one of the few shows I own on the complete series of. It is the best show of all time, in my opinion. It's a show that is, even though they're adults, it is a coming of age story, and it speaks to so many different age groups and ranges. There's only like a few other shows I own, one of them being Young Indiana Jones, but that's just because I'm an Indiana Jones guy. And
me too, my friend. Me too.
I love Young Indiana Jones.
But it's hard. It's hard to get your hands on that show, and when it was easier to get them, I got them. I asked for them as a Christmas gift. Mm-hmm. But no, there are very few shows I own. This is one of them for a reason. This is my go-to show. It is my comfort show. It is my heartbreak show. It has an episode for every single emotion you can feel as a human being, and it speaks to the soul on so many levels. This is what Friends should have been. Friends is a piece of shit.
Preach.
Yeah, Friends, when you do look back on it now, they're not all that likable to be.
Now announcing the next.
I would say Chandler and Phoebe are the rare exceptions. They're more likable than the others.
Chandler's the only likable one.
Chandler's my spirit animal.
Fuck that show.
So for me, it's everything Matt said. This is my favorite show of all time. Yeah, I mean, I almost, when we finished our rewatch, I almost started it again.
I had to stop myself from doing that.
Me too. I know I got Friends coming up, so I mean, I can't push that off too much. But part of me really, really, really wants to rewatch it.
You should just quit Friends and be like, you know what? I'm just doing How Much Mother again because
I can do both.
Yeah.
No, because you're gonna be sitting there watching Friends, wishing you were watching How Much Mother.
Exactly.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I can willfully rewatch How I Met Your Mother whenever I want. Friends, I'm doing it because it's on
here. To quote Barney, this is what I'd rather happen to me than Friends.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyways, I echo everything Matt said. I echo everything Ben said. I echo everything Dave said. This is my favorite show. It is the comfort blanket. All the characters at one point or another make me laugh. Ted is who I am. Marshall is who I want to be, and Barney is everyone. We all want to have a friend like that.
You actually hit on a point I forgot to mention. You are each one of these characters at some point in life.
Yeah.
You are Ted at some point in life when you're single and you're wondering if you're ever going to find someone for
That's me right now.
You are Marshall at some point in life when you are happy with the one that you love and you don't want to give that up for anything. Lily is your self-doubt. People don't realize this, but Lily is the self-doubt and the fact that if you keep pursuing what you want, eventually something good will come.
Lily, I cannot be remiss if I don't mention the scene in season 8 when she gets Ted to tell her that she still has feelings for Barney, but her out, where she says, there are times I wish I wasn't a mother. I just want to pack my bags and leave. Holy shit.
Yeah.
And Robin?
Robin is you when you're not sure what you want in life, and at the same time still fighting for that happiness you're looking for. And Barney, let's be honest, he's you when you're hoeing around trying to hide your emotions. And
What about you, Dave?
I love, this is a fantastic show. I know that I've come off as probably the most negative person on the panel, but this is easily top 10, like with a bullet for me. Maybe top 5. It's a fantastic show. Like you guys were saying, I didn't do a full rewatch, but I rewatched every episode that I was like, this. Every time I said this will be in my top 5, rewatched the episode, and I did that for about half the show. And every time you guys brought up an episode that I didn't rewatch, I was like, it wouldn't be in my top 5, but it would definitely be in my honorable mentions. I want to go just do a hard rewatch to this show because you're watching it and it meets you where you are, I think. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Because when I was watching this show, I realized, I was like, man, when did I go from being Barney to being Lily? When did that happen to me? And it is a show that I think will be forever timeless. Fuck Friends. It's a terrible show. I don't care who knows it. But it's a show that I don't own, but that's just because I don't have a lot of DVDs. I rewatched. Yeah, I did.
Reason being, How I Met Your Mother is not always going to be streaming.
No, as long as Disney owns it, it's always going to be streaming.
Yeah, it'll be on Plus, but
Disney Plus or depending, well, at least in the States, it'll be on Hulu because they keep that shit separate. But.
Hashtag physical media. Anyways.
So do I.
Yeah, no, I got it too. I don't own the complete series like you. I bought every individual season.
But this is
my dad for Christmas every year ever since the box set came out to buy it to me, and he wouldn't. My girlfriend this was her Valentine's Day gift to me because she knew how much the show meant to me.
Okay.
But like this show it's so important, and I could not express how much I think everyone should watch it. Should you watch all 9 seasons? Yes. Yep. Because you're going to catch something, and there will be a moment in every single season that makes you cry, makes you laugh, and makes you look at the person you are and reevaluate yourself. Even like, it's just such a good show. Honorable mention, by the way, season 6, best season.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say, before I forget, season 3, I won't fight anybody on this. Season 3 is the most important season of the whole show. Without that season, Ted never meets the mother. Because the only reason he met the mother was because Rachel Pearson introduced him. And I told him about her man.
That was season 3.
Yeah, you follow him on this.
Follow me. The only reason he knew Rachel Pearson because he was in that one class. The only reason he was in the one class because he was going to a shop that Tony gave him. The only reason Tony gave him to that shop was because Snell left Ted for Tony. And the only reason Ted knew Snell was because he got that trap snap in the season 3 premiere. Boom.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Take away that trap snap, the whole show falls apart.
I think there's a fantastic episode in, I think it's like season 5, which is like right place, right time, where it's like, this is why I didn't turn left. This is why I turned right.
Yeah.
And I think
that would be season 4 because season 5 is when you started as the teacher, if I remember correctly.
Right.
You're right. But like that, you're so right. That's also what this show is about. It's about the small decisions you make and how every decision you make leads you to the person that you're eventually supposed to be with and the person you're supposed to be at the end of the day. And it's beautiful. That's what all this show's about.
It's persons. Let's put a plural on that. Persons you could end up with.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I agree that it could be persons. But I've made my stance about Robin and Ted, and I'm not going to continue.
I'm not saying Robin. I'm just saying persons, because I
Yeah.
started this by saying this show is about letting you know there's always going to be more than one person in life.
So it's safe to say this show for everybody is legend.
Wait for it.
Gary. Right, it's legendary.
Yeah.
Go down in time as one of the best sitcoms of all time.
Yes.
For sure.
And on that note, Dave, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Schmoes of the North. We do a lot of Schmodown reactions. We have a best TV show podcast. Me and Soda have a comic book show. New episodes coming soon, I guess. And we have a lot of great movie, TV show coverage, things coming down the pipe. Also, I've been trying to be more active on Instagram, so you can catch me on at Baby James Lees on Instagram. So don't give away the gag.
I'd say I love it. I love the gag. That's all I'm gonna say.
Over my head.
Yeah, I'll tell you off the air.
Matt, no, he has to follow me to get the gag.
Okay, I won't say it. Okay, Matt, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at WhatMoviesMatt. And if you want to watch me and all my guys, whether it be Chris, Nick, Connor, or the Ragent of the Rager himself, Taylor Gleek, you can find us on the Who Are They Real Entertainment Podcast Network. Just look up WAT, W-A-T, Real, spelled with two E's, Entertainment, like you can see on my little logo right here. And yeah, catch me right there.
Ben, where can everybody find you?
You can find me right here at Ben22 on Twitter, and right here on the Media Studies Network, and on my Schmodown show, Mountain Schmodown, where we go into famous careers every week. This week we're going into Baby Kevin's Mark Ellis, I believe.
Which should be fun. Yes, it is, because I'm looking at it, the link right now.
And that show can be found on Schmoes of the North. Like and subscribe.
Yeah. And for myself, you can find me at soda_the_saxman on Instagram and Twitter. And I'm not going to plug anything else because Dave and Ben are.
And you can soon see him on the Really Trivia Showdown. Really Trivia on the Who Are They Real Entertainment Network.
Yeah, you can find me sticking my toes into the movie trivia pool down there. And I'm also appearing on the Wrestle Reel live WrestleMania reaction this weekend. So check me out over there as well. So thank you guys very much for joining us. This was, I'm glad this went almost 2 hours.
Wow.
That's a normal show for me.
Yeah.
I got work in the morning, but you know what? I love it.
Yeah, and I got
work in 6 hours.
Thank you guys very much for joining us. This was great. I'm sad that I'm done talking How I Met Your Mother for now. And next week, Ben and I know these two guys said how much they hate it, but Ben and I are going to be reviewing season 1 of Friends. So check that out. For a long time I said season 1 was one of my least favorite season 1s of all time. This rewatch, I might take that back a little bit. It's still not the best, but it definitely made me laugh more than I remember laughing. Again, probably the weed, but that's
probably the weed.
Probably.
It's definitely the weed.
So with that, thank you guys much for joining us, for watching us in the future, what have you, and we will see you next week on Recapping the Past. Stay sweaty, everybody, and don't forget to smash